Hello and welcome to the Carbitrage podcast, episode 169. Nice. I'm Eric Berger, joined as always by my co-host Ryan Sinitsky. Hello, sir.
Woo!
Woo! I'm glad that you came a little bit later when the sun started to go away because it was really awful this morning.
Yeah, I was having a Father's Day picnic at Harriet Island.
Oh, so you got out of the way early. Nice.
Yeah. So
I still have to go to mine after this.
Well, it's because I got that, and then we're doing this, and then immediately after this, I'm driving out to St. Paul to look at a house.
Nice.
So I'm like, I got
hopefully in my hood.
Day. Yeah, it is actually. It's right off of 7. And
you going with Peter?
Yeah, with Peter.
Oh,
it's right off of 7 and Minnehaha, Minnehaha.
What's that by?
Like where the arcade clusterfuck is. Like where 7 turns into arcade and all that other trash. Yep. Mm-hmm. You go down another block and then you turn right.
Okay.
And then you kind of go about halfway to Darriette from your house.
Okay, sure.
And that's kind of where it is.
That's pretty
super
close.
Nice house. Yeah, it's a really nice house. I'm feeling it. I'm
very
really excited.
Nice. Very good. Very good. Anyway, kicking off with a brief little plug before we start with topics. Head on over to patreon.com/carbitrage. And you will find on that particular webpage 2 open-ended levels of support for content consumers like you to directly benefit content producers like us. And you actually get a little bit of kickback. So why don't you head on over to patreon.com/carbitrage and figure out what those might be.
Yeah, it might even be a cool koozie.
It might be.
Depending.
Or apparel, depending on what level you go with. Anyway, Okay, moving on to topics.
1 second. What kind of beer do you have?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm actually drinking for the... These are almost gone now, and I'm having my first one. So it's a Polliner Original Munich Lager.
Delicious.
It's a very good beer.
I'm drinking a Life Beater.
A Stella Artois?
Yeah, in England apparently that's what they're called.
Okay.
Because, they're known for being a favorite of the lower class.
I mean, for us, that's a tank top.
Yeah, basically.
But for them, it's a Stella Artois beer.
Yeah, so this is, I guess Stella Artois in England is like their Budweiser. Which is like...
Wow, that's difficult to think about.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a very high quality of beer, because this is it kind of tastes like a fart, but I mean, it's like whatever.
Not as much as a Corona tastes like fart.
Yeah, no, this is much better than most quote-unquote domestic American-style beers, so.
I feel like we buy that just because my niece's name is Stella. We never used to buy Stella.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
And it looks fancy.
It's a great bottle.
It's got a paper top on it and everything, so people think that you're partying, even if
you're
not.
No. This is the Bengal 7 series of beers. It looks really fancy if you don't know what you're talking about. Okay. That's a good way to describe it.
I mean, my brain's in pain now, but yeah, I guess that's not terrible.
But also, I've been actively trying to find a Sally Carrera stuffed animal for Stella.
Oh, that would actually be adorable.
I know. They don't make it. They make every other character except from Cars, except for Sally Carrera.
There must be an unofficial one somewhere.
I've been trying to find it. It's like the world has forgotten that the 996, 911 exists, and they refuse. I'm not even joking. In my process of trying to find it, I found a Nissan Stanza wagon stuffed animal. The Stanza wagon is a stuffed animal, and not the 996. That's just shocking to me.
Well, I mean, I could see it not being a Cars character stuffed animal, but somebody should make a stuffed 996.
Yeah,
they make stuffed Twingos, although those are adorable.
Yeah, those are great. But everybody wants a Twingo.
Yeah.
But they don't make a stuffed 996. It's really weird. So, Scott, the day I find you stuffed 996, I will be buying it for Stella.
And I'm sure she will appreciate it. She does seem to be already headed down, we'll say, the car appreciation.
The correct path.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Good. That's a good decision. All right.
So anyway, topic 1. I briefly touched on this with you actually last episode, and we rolled it into this one. But we were talking about how auto journalists and manufacturers alike will refer to a product like the Traverse as Traverse.
Yeah.
Or the Equinox as Equinox, or the Ultima.
It has to have the article.
So they just truncate everything if it's a product name, and I'm wondering, why does that happen?
I don't know.
Why is it consistent across auto journalists and manufacturers, but seemingly that's it?
Yeah, I don't know, because I just want you to know I'm breaking that trend. And
okay, good.
Even if it gets edited out, I write the article ahead of the car name. I don't say Honda
Absolutely.
Accord. I say the Honda Accord.
No, you don't say Accord. Accord.
Well, the thing is, it's only with new cars, too. because you never read like a classic automobiles and they say Jaguar XKE.
Or like Starion performed well in this test.
Yeah, no, they say the Starion performed surprisingly well. Like,
Well, I mean, back in the 80s, they were like, the 1986 Starion performed
Yeah.
well in this test.
like I feel like it's like a,
Was it just for
It's-
laziness?
I don't know, like it seems to be like correlated with like the marketing bean counter douche getting
Okay,
hired
sure.
with the auto manufacturer.
So they got mad at the auto writers, like, you're wasting too many
Well,
words.
I think that them taking the article away is trying to give the car more of a personality as opposed
Okay.
to like actually making a car that has personality.
But the car isn't named Jeff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's named Traverse.
Yeah, which is an awful name
It's
for
an
a child.
awful name. Well,
It's just an awful name.
wow.
Also, speaking of traverses, I was in traffic the other day. I saw a Traverse, a
Okay.
new Blazer, and what's
Equinox.
what's the GMC version?
Terrain? Oh,
Yeah,
of
Terrain.
the bigger one.
Yeah, the bigger one.
Acadia.
Acadia, yeah. So I saw all three of those together at a stoplight, and I was looking there. I said, first, is there three people with no personality?
Absolutely not.
But also, if you'd remove the badges from the brand new Blazer, and you'd remove the badges from the 10-year-old Traverse and that GMC, you wouldn't be able to tell one from the other.
Nope.
Why would you ever spend money on that? Because
It's
you're not.
because people buy commodity garbage.
But that's the thing is like, it doesn't make sense even with the commodity because like you don't even have, you can't even tell the difference between them.
Right.
Like if you have a brand new Blazer, why are you spending $32,000? I don't know how much a Blazer costs.
Probably more than that.
I assume it's probably starts at that.
Everything is 30 plus these days. So that's above the Equinox. So I would guess they started like 34, 35.
So why would you spend $35,000 on a Blazer, and you literally can't tell the difference between that?
I was
and
gonna say you could have
Equinox?
stopped right there.
Like, why would you spend the money on the Blazer? But like,
Right.
especially like, why would you do that and then like not spend the money and just buy an Equinox? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
And like you said, like the old product is identical.
Yeah, and it feels the same.
Yeah.
I've been in all of them, and they don't
we
feel
talked
different.
about a few months ago the vehicles that were kind of ahead of their time on styling. Like what would sell today
Yeah.
with like a headlight taillight refresh
Yeah.
only.
Well, GMC's proved what will work with them because they've just
Exactly.
done that.
And
they give it a
even that's
different name.
barely.
Yeah, like I can't honestly tell.
The corporate styling's been around since 2010, and yeah, like what you said. I mean, we should add that to our list.
Yeah.
The GM Lambda.
Yeah, and honestly, like, it's like a Grand Theft Auto car where it's like it's so generic. It looks like
It's an advertising Photoshop to try
Yeah.
to genericize a vehicle.
Yeah, like that's what it looks like. It looks like you could honestly put a like pixel for pixel copy of a terrain into GTA 5, and I honestly don't think anybody would actually notice that the literal terrain has been put in that game because you would drive past it and go, okay, like
It's a crossover.
it's like this is a mid-sized crossover
I
that's
bet
supposed
you
to be made in America.
Wouldn't even get a cease and desist from General Motors.
They
'cause
probably wouldn't even
know.
notice. No,
Yeah.
they totally wouldn't notice.
Is that our intellectual property or not?
I
don't know. I think we
don't
own
know.
vanilla, but I'm not positive.
I don't know. I think this is vanilla bean.
Oh man, that's way too like farm to table.
So, let's talk about something that's a little bit. Well, I guess this is kind of genericizing things. Toyota. Well, in Japan, they don't have normal car dealerships.
Okay, I'm actually not familiar with what they have.
Oh,
so-
really? You're not. So, in Japan, instead of like going to like say like a Toyota dealership, you would have the Corolla store, and then
Okay.
you would have like the Toyota Sports store, and then like the Lexus dealership. And this is very common between all Japanese auto manufacturers. At least it was in the 90s, where you would have like the Net store, Toyopet, Toyota store, and then Corolla store.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that's how they would have their dealership networks.
The Corolla store
No,
or
just
Corolla
Corolla store.
store?
Corolla
oh
store.
no. So
But-
they're part of the problem.
Kinda, but I mean they still call it the Corolla. Well, actually, in Japanese they don't have articles. Period. So you don't run
So
into this
maybe
issue.
all of the auto writers are Japanese.
You may have just confused Japanese people having their
Please help.
But so Toyota actually they were the last bastion of that.
Okay.
Because Honda used to have like Verno and Primo and stuff like that for their stores. And Nissan had Nissan and Prince and like
Yep.
Skyline stores and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the last one left was Toyota. And this is why like in Japan they have like the Cressida, which is the Mark II, and they have the Chaser, which is almost identical to the Cressida, but it has pillarless windows.
Ah.
And then they have the Cresta, which is like the same thing, but with like a solitary bar taillight. They'd be very similar because they'd have different versions of the Cressida for each store.
And I was gonna say, and they all had different storefronts,
Yeah,
dealers.
and they were all. It was actually like they were all really unique. But Toyota finally canned that this year, and now they're actually just going to having a solid Toyota store for everything. But Japanese nostalgia car actually has a really cool history on like the entire history of Toyota dealership chains in Japan and like kind of how it made sense, because like the Corolla store in the Toyo Pet or in the Publica store previous to the Corolla store, that was like your entry level sort of car.
Okay.
And then you'd have your let's see here. I think it was it was a green one. Sorry, they had the Toyota store, which was not the normal Toyota store you'd imagine, but the Toyota Sports store that had their sportier cars.
Good. That's the one I would go to.
That would be your Aristo or your GS 300 versus your LS 400, where they're almost the same thing. Like they're really interchangeable with each other, but the GS 300 is a little bit technically more sporty. It had like Giorgetto designed body. Like that would be.
It had separate fog lights.
Yeah, that'd be at the Toyota.
Very sporty.
That'd be at the Toyota Sports store.
Okay.
And of course, like so, you'd imagine the Toyota Sports store. What color is Toyota?
It's white. Or no,
white-
sorry,
white and red.
Desert Sand Mica.
Well, no, I mean like, their logos are white and red, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Except in Japan, the Toyota store is dark red only,
Cool.
which is like because they already had the Corolla store is really weird.
Damn
But
it,
anyway,
Toyota.
So you can tell that it was really inconvenient for people that weren't car enthusiasts. And with Japan buying a third as many cars as they did when they started doing these, it just didn't make sense anymore. So yeah, now they're just going to a single corporate store like in America, which is good because that's to save them a lot of money. It's to make it easier for them to make cars. The issue, though, what I'm worried about is I'm afraid Toyota doesn't go the way of the Traverse and stuff like that, where
Just switching to Corolla.
and not only that, but I mean like just going so generic you can't tell like what the vehicles are.
Well, I mean, historically, had you even said that to me 2 years ago, I'd have been like, of course they are. But
Yeah.
now, with all the GR influence, even well, I don't know.
Well, because that's the thing is what we got in America,
Yeah.
that would be considered Corolla store now, which is your normal car
Okay.
at this point.
So it's not just one mark, but it's like the boring shit.
Yeah, that's
So
what we.
RAV4, Corolla, Camry.
That's kind of what you'd find at the
Highlander.
Corolla store. But like the cool
Oh.
thing, so like the Scions and stuff,
Yeah.
those are like a combination of Toyota Nets and like the Toyota Sport and stuff like that, like some of the weird stuff.
And we had separate dealers for those for a bit, right?
For a
when they
little
launched.
bit, yeah, for a little bit.
Then
But
they realized how much they were hemorrhaging money.
yeah, it isn't apparently working in Japan either, which is kind of a bummer. I mean, it makes sense. What I love about Japan and Japanese cars is how this is the most sensible place on earth, and they do things that are so nonsensical, and it works out. Like,
And I was going to say that, I'm sure they had data from the rest of the world at that time, too. Oh, we got a badass on a 2-cylinder motorcycle that misfires on purpose.
yeehaw.
But anyway, yeah, they had data from the rest of the world that did things differently, and it arguably... Are you freaking kidding me? I hate V-twins, by the way.
Yeah,
if
they're
you guys
pretty
didn't
awful.
know that already, I hate V-twins.
Yeah, I can't think of any that are good. Well,
Well, there are a couple that are even fire.
I guess Moto Guzzi. Moto Guzzi kind of sucks.
Well, yeah, even Moto Guzzi, it's like, and most of the time those were V4s.
Well, then also they put him horizontal or
Right. Like a
transverse transfers to the to the
longitudinal.
chest. No, what? Yeah, you're right. That is longitudinal.
Yeah, most of the Harleys are transfers.
Yeah. Anyway, so Toyota's after 60 years of having actually a really cool dealership chain that allowed them to make very unique body styles of vehicles. I'm afraid that they might just start making, instead of cool stuff like the CHR, which is like a relatively cooler version of a front-wheel drive base model RAV4, you're only going to get the RAV4. And you're
Right.
going to get less.
Are we gonna like get like a GR showroom then?
I don't know. Well,
That'd be
they're not
kinda
going to
cool.
do that. Like, they're
Oh.
not going to make a separate showroom for that, but they're going to like make GR versions of cars, like a trim level. But I mean, like,
Century, GR
Yeah.
Century. Just
that'd be
saying.
very cool if they actually made that for more than one person.
I know. Damn it, that thing looked so cool at the racetrack.
But I mean, like, it made in Japan in 1990 they sold 7.78 million cars in that country alone. In 1990, this year or last year they sold 5.23.
Oh, so they're down.
Yeah, that's why.
But I mean, the population density there, and just the car regulations and the lack of space.
Yeah,
I kind of get it.
Yeah, I think that they should. It's just it kind of sucks that this didn't work. Like, I really wish it did, and I feel
think
like
it did work.
Well, I
but
mean,
the
like
world changed around.
Yeah, the
it.
world changed around. That's a good way to put it. And I'm lamenting that because there's just a lot of cool stuff that we received because of that, like the Lexus GS. And all the cars we love by Toyota.
I think that's a good
because of
idea.
that.
I mean, imagine if we had like so when Scion first started here, we had a Scion dealer, we had a Toyota dealer. Like, what if they had taken all the boring trash lease product and put it into the Toyota dealership, and they made all the interesting stuff? Like at the time, like the MR2 Spider, the TC, the Supra, and they didn't have a Supra then, but you get the idea.
Theoretically, yeah.
But you put all that in like the Scion store.
Yeah, that would make way more sense.
And just call it Toyota still, but it would be like the
Toyota Sports.
The sports.
And that's
store.
exactly what the Toyota Sports store in Japan was. Is you put all
That's
your
a
cool
great
shit in one
idea.
dealership. Yeah, and that's how I liked this. And then like for like if you wanted a K car, like you go to Toyota Nets, and that's just K cars.
Okay.
And so like they have like special dealerships. And also in Japan, when you buy a car, you don't go to the dealership. The dealership comes to you.
Oh, so it's like what's that Carvana thing?
Kind of, yeah. So actually, Carvana's really close because what you do is you talk to the salesperson, and the salesperson will come by and bring you a selection of cars that would fit what you're looking for.
That's cool.
And then just come to your house, and then you get to drive around your neighborhood and your typical driving style. So people, when they buy a car that they're much happier with. That's why in Japan you'd find people that like if they really loved a car and they could afford to keep it going, like they're gonna keep their base model Nissan Skyline because it's perfect for exactly what they do.
They grab Skyline.
Yeah, they don't have like a set test drive route where you have some guy breathing in your ear about financing. You had
0%.
Yeah, exactly. Your test drive is your route to work, which is I think that's a much better way to do it. So yeah, it's just one of those things where they're at least keeping that, which is good.
Sure.
But yeah, it'd be really nice if they if some of that stuff actually came to America and we get cooler stuff. But it's
Maybe
looking
someday, but Karen's really kind of have it out for us on the cool stuff.
Maybe with like EVs. I think
Toyota
could
possible.
make like a separate like EV branch.
And
Because
that might do okay. I don't know. Toyota, I mean, they've got plug-in hybrids, but I don't think they have a full EV here
no,
yet.
not yet. But I think like if they started making a range of EVs, that way you could get people to be like, I want an EV. I don't want to look at this.
Even if it wasn't make specific, like what if you just had a dealership that sold?
That'd actually be really cool.
EVs only?
That'd be really cool. Well, they used to do that with imports and stuff. Because I had that weird Prince Skyline last week. Article on that's live, by the way. But I had that weird Prince Skyline last week, and that was sold in America not through a Nissan chain, but through a import quote unquote vehicle chain where you would go and be able to buy like.
I feel like that's a lot more like gray market.
Yeah, well, that was before you had a gray market. That's
right.
That's when you could import a right-hand drive car with no safety regulations and be fine. But I think
Damn you, 25-year rule.
I think doing something like that with EVs would be a cool idea.
I think so too, because I mean, people that are buying those, like by and large, Scott just bought a Nero EV, which is kind of cool.
Very
but
cool.
like he was cross-shopping a bunch of other make vehicles that were similar specifications. So I'm sure if there was one brick and mortar around, also if we were allowed to buy EVs in this state at a dealer in this state that are sold in this country, it would be great. So
yeah,
all the
a Mercedes B series.
Well, B class is only
B-class,
available in Canada.
California. No, it's in California.
Really? You can actually buy them here? Okay, well, that's cool. But yeah, I mean, even the 500e was
Annoyingly,
California. And,
one second. Annoyingly, Ontario, California, which Ontario, CA, just.
It was probably some botched paperwork that allowed that to happen. Like, well, they're already here, so what are you going to do? I guess we'll crash test a few of them then, huh? But yeah, I mean, the 500e, the Nero, the Kona, a lot of that stuff was just like, even if it's sold here at dealers, and they're allowed to do it.
It's just, you can't find it.
They don't, Because but I mean, this was the thing. Like, you have to go 1,700 miles away to, and sight unseen buy a car you've never driven, essentially.
Yeah, because
Like,
you've heard it was good.
What if there was one brick and mortar dealer in the Twin Cities that did nothing but plug-in hybrids and EVs?
Like we have got, what's the name of that scooter store off of Cedar? Scooterville. Yeah. Like, if you had something like Scooterville, where they just sell a bunch of really good scooters. You can have everything from something made in China to, like, the best Vespa you've ever had.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, they sell everything. They've
all
got
they sell
contracts with
is
all the manufacturers.
just scooters. I think that having that for EVs is totally a lucrative dealership style.
I think so, too, but I'm guessing you would encounter quite a bit of pushback from the
A ton.
manufacturer.
A ton. Well, it wouldn't be the manufacturer, it'd be the other dealerships. Because they
Really?
make money from being able to get you into something that's,
I think
one of those
now would be the
individual
time to
cars.
do that, though, because the dealers don't give a shit about EVs right now.
I agree. I think that
So if
if
something like
if
this
somebody
was
had the
gonna happen-
overhead to do that, I think now would be a great time to do that.
There's plenty of vacant lots in South Minneapolis on which to build a dealer.
Yeah, that's true.
And poor Scooterville had its windows broken.
Well, they only
During
had
the riots.
but the pawn shop next door got burnt down.
I used to go to that pawn shop when I lived at Augsburg.
I used to.
Yep, that's gone now, apparently.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Well,
So-
apparently, you can't hate on scooters, man. Scooters
Yeah,
are
that's why.
awesome.
That's probably why I got saved. Is that some dude walked in the Molotov and saw these cute little faces. Like, I can't.
No,
I
one
just
guy
can't.
broke the window, and the rest of the mobsters beat
Whoa,
him up.
whoa, dude, simmer down.
That's the scooter
Scooters.
store. That's the pawn shop.
Yeah, take the pawn shop.
You
Yeah.
idiot.
So it's a good thing that Scooterville was saved.
I agree.
Yeah, it would have been terrible if somebody just shot a cannonball through the window or something.
I'm really glad I brought up my next article early because I had a bunch of splash screens and ad block things I had to push through that didn't show up immediately. So anyway, now that is done, I want to talk. Yeah, grab another beer.
Okay.
I want to talk about the Cannonball record falling yet again.
Again?
Again.
Oh my God.
And we're down to 25 hours 55 minutes. But the reason why I bring this up, we haven't brought it up on a couple of the record attempts, or the successful record breaks, I guess. But this one, the guy did it in a rental Mustang.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah, he did it in just over a day in a rental Mustang. So
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't click on that because I wasn't sure if it was BS or if it was real.
I read the whole thing. I never read articles. I read the entire goddamn thing. It's amazing. This guy is just me. But basically what it amounts to, I'll give you a little bit of a preface. This guy has done the Sea to Shining Sea before, but he's had a little bit different goal. It wasn't for the outright fastest time. It was for the non-stop, so no fuel stops. So he had a...
How did you do that on a Mustang?
Oh, he didn't. This was earlier. This was 2 years ago.
Okay.
So he had a an 03 Crown Vic that had a 69 Ford Galaxy body on it, coated in floor epoxy.
Okay.
And he had 187 gallons of supplemental fuel on board.
How did he coat it in floor epoxy?
I don't know. It did not clarify. But nevertheless it happened. And he did it nonstop. He went New York to LA without stopping.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. And he did it in 32 hours and something minutes. So a full 7 hours longer than this. But traveling at a more reasonable speed, you're able to pull down much better fuel economy. So he's probably doing 17, 18 miles to the gallon versus the 12 the Mustang was pulling down.
Yeah.
So anyway, I digress. This is a Mustang GT, an SN650, one of the new IRS ones.
Yeah.
Automatic, whatever, but just a silver Hertz special. It's clearly an Avis car, even though they blacked out all the stuff in the article. The only thing he did was remove the rear seat, the passenger seat, and then buy a bunch of marketplace fuel cells and plumb them in with a cigarette lighter powered fuel pump.
I love that.
He said the tanks in the trunk were gravity feed into the factory tank. He made a couple of very small holes in the car that were completely covered by the carpet that the rental agency would never notice. And the one in the front had this auxiliary fuel pump. He did have to make one fuel stop in the middle of the country, but he had a pickup truck with a 150-gallon fuel pump in it, essentially waiting to meet him at a quick off, quick on.
Yeah.
So pulled out any sort of variables. But this guy is just I wanted to try and just go flat out as far as I could doing one of these records. And he's like, the car is limited, or by one means or another, to 159 miles per hour. And he didn't have fancy timing equipment, but he had a few things. And he was running Glimpse the whole time, which is a social networking essentially for driving.
Okay.
So you can follow along what people are doing. And there are several screenshots in here of Fred Ashmore doing 159 or 153 miles per hour through just the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. But there's photos in this article I recommend Road and Track is the one that posted this, but it's actually a pretty good read, and the photos of the interior with the fuel cells is nuts. It's just they look like gigantic boat tanks, but they have like copper hard lines.
That's exactly what they look like.
And like they're strapped in with seat belts or ratchet straps or something.
Imagine like a modern moonshining setup, and that's kind of what I would imagine it looks like.
Yeah, but they're all like flat black, and
Yeah.
really like they're pretty low profile. So I don't think you would raise much suspicion. But yeah, it's funny. And I was thinking about this, like, okay, so you took the seats out, so you have to drive it back once you're done now to put the seats back in it to return it. Otherwise, you could just like throw the fuel cells away and just return it to an Avis in New York and fly
What
home.
I imagine that truck that had the 150-gallon cell.
That was only in the middle of the country, though. They didn't follow him the whole time.
I wonder, maybe he mailed them to himself.
Maybe.
That makes
Honestly,
sense.
freight shipping them probably would have been much more enjoyable. But he did say that he stripped all the stuff out, left it, and then drove the car back without the fuel cells in it to California, which is a little weird. Like
I would not go the same route either.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean,
But, like-
I will see Oklahoma, and then I'll see Minneapolis. So like,
Rental car companies must not track these things because otherwise,
don't.
like,
they would totally
there's
shut them
no
down.
way.
Totally would have shut them
There's
down.
no way this would have been allowed to happen. But there's a photo in the article too of him refueling with the pickup truck. But this guy is
That's pretty.
this is my dude, man. This is how I would do it.
That's pretty
Like, I don't
awesome.
want to break my own car. I need something brand new.
I want to break somebody else's shit.
Are you sure this is unlimited mileage?
So it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. All right, so I have a question for you.
Okay.
The United States is kind of like this like moment of reckoning where we're it's okay to be wrong about things you previously believed,
That's good because
which
we
is
are.
yeah. I mean we've been wrong before, and I think while we're thinking about this, it's kind of me thinking, automotive speaking.
Mm-hmm.
What were some things that you were previously wrong about,
Oh.
and that you have now found yourself completely on the other side of the table about?
There's quite a few things, I would say. So yeah, preconceived notions when something came out or was announced, and I'm just like, that's never gonna work, and then now it's perfect. There are quite a few, I guess. Stuff that would come off my head right off the top would be drive-by-wire throttle.
Yep,
When
that's
that first
one
came out, I'm like, that won't be reliable, it won't be responsive. Give me my physical linkage, and it is way
better.
better than a physical linkage.
100% better.
It is instantaneous in its response for all intents and purposes. Like, your body cannot compress your hoof fast enough into this thingy
Yeah.
to make any difference. And the flexibility for engine swaps and things like that.
It made it like
Oh
night
my
and day
god!
better. Yeah.
That's one third-party EMS solution that there aren't many companies that allow you to do drive-by-wire throttle because the liability is so extreme.
Yeah.
But like AEM does with the Infinity, which is a great standalone.
Yeah.
So drive-by-wire is kind of the main one. On that same vein, CAN bus and car Ethernet. I figured that was going to be a
I
huge
still
pain.
have nightmares about that because when things go wrong, they go wrong in a huge way.
And they do. There's still a downside to it when there's a problem. Like, oh, yeah, my tire pressure monitors and my nav don't work. Well, it turns out there's a little bit of corrosion in your left mirror.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's really dumb. So that I feel like has improved a little bit, but it still can like wreck. It can total a car if you're not ready for it. And the old systems were like super modular. So if you had a problem, you could narrow it down to that particular system. But it saved like 30 pounds of wire from each car.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And it does make changing
And that was
modules
that was
and
at the
adding
time.
options. Right.
Yeah.
And it's made a lot of modification a lot easier. And it is, by and large, insanely reliable.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, we should say that as long as you aren't coupling this with a biodegradable wiring harness.
Yeah, definitely don't buy a CAN bus Volkswagen or Mercedes from the early 2000s or late 90s.
Yeah. Or today.
Or even, just don't buy those.
Yeah, like modern Volkswagen still does that. They still have nightmare problems.
Oh my god, I can't believe they didn't. Actually, yes, I can believe they didn't learn from that.
So they probably know full well, but it's like that's not really our problem now, is it?
Well, we bought 83 billion miles of biodegradable jacket wiring, and we need to make it.
I think it's more, they're like, hey, Raz, biodegradable garbage jacket wiring. Should we get more? And they're like, well, does it break within warranty? No, but I mean, it breaks like 2 miles outside of warranty. They go,
It's fine.
It doesn't really sound like
Throw it
our
in
problem
there.
now, does it? And I guess not, but I mean, like, It's our customer's problem. They're like, nope. Not that. No,
So it sounds
not
like you've
my
answered
problem.
your own
Yeah.
question, didn't you, Gary?
Buy more.
Wow.
So
Yeah, they're
that's-
reordering it actively, I'm sure.
That's a very Volkswagen thing.
Another one I have to say would be all-wheel drive. Not all systems, most of them are crap, but the modern
You can get
through-the-road
ones that are
electric
good.
systems are like, yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer. You should do that. And like the MX Drive and the AMG S all-wheel drive system, where you can physically decouple it and not use the front at all
That's pretty cool.
in software, that's neat. Because you can drive a rear-wheel drive car the entire year, and if you get stuck once in the winter, just flip it on for a couple seconds and you're good.
Yeah,
So
and then you just have all
that's
that dead weight for the rest of the year.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I do hate the weight, but they've really done a great job pulling the weight down. I mean, you're at the point now where an all-wheel drive car can only weigh like 100 pounds more than the rear.
That's a very good point. Where
just
it's
like,
not
Jesus.
like it's not like it was in the '90s, where
No.
you know if you had a Subaru Impreza weighed
Or the 70s
500 pounds more than a Civic,
when they
had.
were putting Spicer V drives in the big body wagons, and there were like 400 pounds of diffs hanging out the front of that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's-
it's not like that anymore. We've got little aluminum case hypoid gear sets, teeny ass drive shafts. I had my boss's X5M up in the air like 3 weeks ago doing brakes on it. It has the same front drive shaft as my mom's 320D wagon. Like, it is tiny.
That's
like, there's
hilarious.
no power going through that thing. You're going to destroy it.
So something that I was very wrong about, and
Okay.
I will admit, supercars.
Oh, how so?
All right, so for the longest time, I never saw the value of a supercar. Like, why anybody would ever want that? Because I'm like, you just buy a Civic and throw $5,000 worth of mods into it and be faster.
Overnight parts from Japan?
Yeah. And I see now, the thing is, I don't look at a supercar for its performance.
Okay.
A supercar is more like buying a nice piece of artwork. You get the entire package put together into an aesthetically pleasing body. Yes, you could find a stick figure drawing, and it is technically the same thing as like a Van
This
Gogh.
is also a person.
Yeah,
Both of these drawings are people.
yeah. You could get that, or you could get like a self-portrait of Van Gogh.
I mean, it's the same
And I
reason
could-
why you buy an AMG over a Camaro.
Yeah, and I that's one of those things where I didn't see the value of that, where it's the intangible things that you can't really put on paper, where if you walk into a room with a Countach, you have something that is
Oh, yeah.
objectively bad in every form, but it's put together in such a way that it's very beautiful.
Its badness makes it good. It's like
Yeah.
the Avantime.
And I think that the thing is, if you are looking at a supercar, I wasn't looking at it from a sense of humor.
Okay.
But those cars are designed to have a sense of humor. I think that's the way to look
Richard
at them.
Hammond said pantomime
Yeah.
with the Zonda, and I think that applies to more than just the Zonda.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's you buy the car to laugh at it. You don't buy it to go, look how wonderful I am.
Well, and then it ends up being good, and that's the problem now.
But that's the thing is, but you still buy it to laugh at it though.
Yeah.
Because it's totally stupid, like to even think about buying one of those cars.
Yeah, by and large, yes.
And that's something that nobody had ever described a supercar to me as that until I was at Wheels of Italy once, and somebody described it as that. And then I kind of like that honestly changed how I looked at supercars, and that's how I've always described it to people. I'm like, well, yeah, if you're buying the car for performance, like, yeah, you're stupid. But if you're buying the car as a sense of humor, like, let me buy this car that, how much power does the Ferrari have? Like,
375 horsepower. I
let me
think.
buy this 375 horsepower car. It needs a timing belt every,
3 years or like 15,000 miles according to Ferrari, which is baloney.
which requires the engine to be.
Not even just the engine, the complete rear cradle on the car needs to be pulled out.
See, this is what I mean. Absolutely hilarious. Like, that is the funniest thing in the world to me. Because
And they didn't need to do that.
no, they absolutely didn't need to. They could have done it any other way.
They could have put hatches and
Yeah.
crap in the interior.
Yeah, they could have totally did it any other way. And that's the humor of the car. And like that's why I actually love supercars, because it's not a fact of them actually being good, because most of the time they're not. But it's the hilariousness that you just spent a ridiculous amount of money on a car that's not reliable, doesn't work very well, and is a giant pain in the ass to do anything with. And then on top of it, if you ever take it out to a car show and you are under the age of 100, your first comment will be, oh, is that your dad's car?
Yeah.
Like, that's the humor of the supercar to me, where it is the beauty of capitalism, where you finally have enough money to get the ultimate thing, and then you get it, and it is rubbish. It is objectively rubbish, but you love it because it's such an accomplishment. It's
And
so
it
cool.
makes it that much better as an occasional used vehicle, too.
Yes, like that's what I
Like,
that's what I
this
love
is
about
great.
it. Like that's That's the beauty of the supercar versus, the Honda Civic with 500 horsepower. Because the Honda
Right.
Civic with 500 horsepower,
so different.
that's so much better. And they're both great in their own way. But the Honda Civic with 500 horsepower that's something that is objectively good. But, of course, you can still make fun of it. So.
Right, but I mean, you're not going to be able to take that Civic to Wheels of Italy.
No, you're right, and that's the thing is like that's where the humor comes in, where it's like the supercar has its own things that come with it. Another thing that I was very, very wrong about: dumb American cars.
What do you mean? Like you're talking W bodies?
No, not W-bodies. I still hate those.
Okay, good. I was gonna say because those are objectively bad vehicles.
I'm talking like Malaise garbage.
Okay.
50s
so just
cars.
Gigantic underpowered pieces
Yeah,
of trash.
50s cars. The
Okay.
existence of the flathead Ford.
Oh, I love that engine.
Like that's another thing where what I did when I was a changer is I looked at things through the lens of performance value that this vehicle gives me relative to its cost. Mm-hmm. And that was my only way of looking at cars. And I've since grown
That's
to
fair still too.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair way to look at it, but there's so much more the world offers than just that. Because like if you have a Malaise car, it's kind of like a supercar, but like a lot more affordable. Because it's the same thing where it's like it's really stupid and comical.
There are some like 70s American cars that I really like, and I kind of get it what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because there are some of those things that are just so objectively horrible.
It makes it
that it's
good
like
almost.
watching a car crash. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's like
it's-
some of them are actual technological achievements too, like the old Toronado.
Yeah.
Actually, a really cool car, even though it's terrible.
It is. They went to great lengths to make something awful.
However, the motorhome that was based off of that is my favorite damn thing. So good. If I could put a Detroit two-stroke in one of those things,
It'd be perfect. Yeah. Another really good one, the Vista Cruiser, which also like the Roadmasters of
just
any era.
garbage.
Like all those things are so funny to me, and I love them. And then the reason I discovered the beauty of the dumb American car.
Yeah.
Well, first off, it's a flathead, and how much money people are spending to make flatheads make like maybe 200 horsepower.
Not only that, but
like
it's how much you're spending to buy a trash.
yeah,
item
like
that's sat outside for.
and it's one of those things where it's like I actually really appreciate that because you understand like how important it was. Like when you saw a hot rod, like how
dude.
cool that was.
Dude, in 1932, you're driving with your little four-cylinder that's got maybe
then-
like 19 horsepower, and
And
this
V8
like
just blasts by you.
45, 50 horsepower V8 blows by you with that noise.
Yeah.
And granted, it's probably oil starving the whole time because the pan just didn't have any baffling
Yeah.
or anything in 32, but that would have been absolutely insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like if you think back in the 50s and they started like making hot rods
Also-
out of them. Yeah, thank you. If you think about it in the 50s and they started making hot rods out of them, you really begin to appreciate like just how important it was. This is where it was like, okay, we took the fenders off. Wow, look how much faster it is. And it's like I put on a second carburetor, now it's even faster. Like
I took
this
the
is,
supercharger off this bus, and now
Yeah.
it's way faster.
yeah, like so like you actually really appreciate that and actually the beauty of it, and it looks cool as hell too.
The
But
sound, man. Oh,
this is the thing though with the
just a
Malaise
beauty.
with the Malaise cars
Yeah.
and the later cars that were like really gross and bad.
We should find specific examples, but yeah, they're all terrible.
I'm gonna say the 1977 Lincoln Continental Mark V.
I'm gonna say, and
That's
people
a
are probably gonna hate me
7-liter.
for this,
That's a
but
7-liter with like 120 horsepower.
the Mustang 2.
That's a terrible vehicle.
It's a horrible vehicle.
I would say I'm thinking like the really big land yachts that are just like totally worthless today.
Mm-hmm.
Like they provide nothing for anyone.
C3 Corvette,
C3 Corvette's a great car, but
a
specifically,
great example of a terrible car.
yeah, or the Glass House Impalas, like the post emissions American cars, just fell on their face.
Yeah. Yes.
And the reason I started loving these cars actually, it came from donk culture. I know, right? It's really weird.
Ugh. I guess
It's
they're
so-
cheap and they hold giant wheels.
And that's why they started doing them. But no, with donk culture, it wasn't until I like started like researching that I started to like actually really appreciate these cars
I
for
love
like
donk culture, man.
for like
So great.
what they provide is that they provide a canvas. It is so bad. It's kind of like a flathead V8 where it's like it's so bad you have nowhere to go but up.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a donk is capable of becoming this ridiculous canvas of making the most baroque baroque, not broke,
Broke.
baroque vehicle you possibly can. With like that is the modern automotive equivalent of like the 3-foot wide collar that Shakespeare would wear. Like that's what donks remind me of, and I actually really love that a lot.
And the advent of the personal luxury coupe.
Yes, exactly. I think that things like that are just hilarious to me, and I really appreciate them because of donk culture and the other cultures that have begun to also appreciate those cars. You know, like
I started really liking donks like 5-6 years ago.
yeah, and that's about the same time for me as well. Like I was like, when they first started happening, I'm like, that's cool because I was into lowriders at that point.
Welcome to East St. Paul.
Yeah, but I was into lowriders when they first started coming out, and that's the reason why I don't like them, because I'm like, dude, just put on some 13-inch wires. That'd be way cooler. And like now I appreciate them as their own thing. But
There was something just jaw-dropping about a 30-inch wheel with like a 9-inch dish and an 11-inch brake disc behind it.
yeah, I think that's really really funny.
For me, I'm just
love
thinking
that.
about the physics of that poor set of brake pads.
Yeah, like there's a lot of hilarious things that happen with it. And like with that, I honestly I don't talk down about donks ever. Like they are in fact like comical, but they're comical in the same way that wearing like a fluffy shirt is comical for
Right.
like the Renaissance era.
Yes, yeah.
And that's how I appreciate it.
But it's
the
one
same
of
way
those
as I appreciate Renaissance artwork.
Yeah, it's a unique outlier culture. I mean, that's why lowriders are cool. That's
Yeah.
why just people that they like Michael, the guys that have nothing but just weird old tiny
Yeah.
French cars, like that's cool.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be cooler to, I'm going to say this and it's going to be controversial, but real car guys, we like the obscure shit more than we like supercars.
That's true. No, that's absolutely true. And because that's the thing is, the more of a nerd a car person is about cars, the more they appreciate weird things.
Yeah.
And when you have a supercar, that's just kind of like, that's your entry level. Like that's your like, okay, cool. Yeah, I like artwork. I really like, I like my Van Gogh. But like when you start going like, hey, here's a donk, then that's like getting like really weird. Just like getting into like cubism and just like really weird things, and you're just like, yeah,
And we're
dude,
talking like box specific donk there.
yeah,
but
yeah. You're like, yeah. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, Picasso's cool, but I mean, have you ever seen this other French artist from like 1931? He got like really drunk on absinthe, fell on the stairs,
He
and
was
killed
missing
himself.
both of
but,
his
like,
ears.
Yeah, like, he did one painting, but it was really rad. So it's stuff like that, and I think I think that's a really good way to look at it, is to look at it in the way of artwork, and the further you get into it, the more you appreciate it. And by the time you get to people that appreciate a supercar and a donk, that's
Yeah.
something that's like so steeped in the car culture.
Well, and there's
they,
so
like,
much
can't
good
come
stuff
out.
that just exists and is going on that nobody's aware of
Yeah, it's true.
at the time. But I mean, yeah, that's like ex post facto stuff.
Yeah.
Like, donk culture has been huge and appreciated by a lot of people for a long time.
It's been around for over
But, like,
20 years. Yeah,
General like appreciation for donks, I think it's pretty new.
I think it's been probably the last maybe 5, if that.
I think it's gonna be pretty close to when we started caring about
Yeah.
donks.
Well, it's when I started like getting into them like big time, like right, like people are like, oh, look at those 30s on that, or look at those 28s on that Impala. I'm like, haha. Okay.
It's better than seeing them in a Hummer.
Yeah, like that's actually kind of cool.
Blech. I'm like,
But now that I'm actually,
yeah,
like-
who would like those?
Now I'm like, I almost want to build one, but like,
Nah.
not quite. Like
No.
it's on my like top 20 list of vehicles I want to build. As a donk is on there. Is like a really fast donk with a 6-liter LS would be really cool.
The people that put like LSAs and LS9s and these like just minty 70s cars
Yeah.
with these 30s and they're running like 9-second quarters
That's
on
hilarious.
the blades.
Yeah,
I'm
like that's the coolest thing in the world. Like you would totally be running like a 7 if you put in a roll cage and like
Oh,
actually
yeah.
made this like good. But like you're fighting against yourself so much. I just think it's hilarious.
and they probably have to run like 538 diffs in these things just to keep them
yeah,
spinning.
like the world's shortest diff and it's like welded. Like stuff. I just love it. I just love how ridiculous it is. The donks are great. So that's something.
Watch it though. They're probably running like a strange Fab Ford 9-inch.
Yeah,
With a
exactly.
modular center section, because these people, they care. They're almost like the lowrider people, where they dump
It's
their
true.
pride
No, it
and
really is.
soul into these cars.
Well, one of my things is like one of the groups I'm on is Bubbles. This Bubble Collective page, which is like just about Bubble Caprices.
I used to follow Donk Snob back in high school.
But this page, you have your people are just getting into it, where they're like, "Hey, where can I get an LT1 from a Corvette?" And there are other people who are like, "Hey, this is the plumber van you pulled the 6-liter out of.
Yep.
Here's where you buy all the parts."
And here's where you get your
Yeah,
4L80 at the same
exactly.
time.
And like
Yep.
this is how you actually make this reliable and
Yep.
quick, and like this is how you can raise it up but also raise the front end up a little bit more in the rear so you can keep the weight over the rear.
Yep.
Like stuff like that.
Better
Like
launching.
things like that are like really cool to me. I love that. So I think automotive speaking, things I was wrong about really pertain to having a closed mind when I first got into vehicles.
Sure.
So I think that's my best way of saying I was wrong is I didn't keep an open enough mind. I thought I was open minded, but once
It's tough, but I mean that kind of comes at the age we were at too.
yeah, you're just getting into it, and when you're a high schooler, you only like My Chemical Romance or something. It's impossible to like My Chemical Romance and the Dave Matthews
God,
Band.
Mazdas are so bad. Hondas are the only way to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, dude, you're basing that on nothing.
Why does anybody even own a Civic? You can have an Accord. Like, that's obviously the best car. Like, you can have a preference to an Accord over a Civic, but like, you don't need to bash the other one because they're all the same.
Right.
It's still.
Even if one's just a parts car.
Yeah, they're all great. So, that's my thing that I was wrong about. Audience, what were you wrong about? Let us know. If you're a patron, you can let us know on our Discord that you'll be added to.
Automatically.
You can comment on our Facebook or on our YouTube. So
any of the above, we will find
any
it.
of the above. Anyway, we should. What was this about batteries?
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly touch on this. I don't think it'll be a long story, but as you know, car sales are way down. The computer hardware sales are way down. Everything is pretty much way down. Even if it's kind of rebounding after the human malware thing, we're still seeing it everywhere. But one kind of niche for cars that wasn't really down as much was plug-in electric vehicles. So they really only account for about 3 or 4% of actual cars sold right now publicly.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed a little bit more resistant to this recession. I'm not even going to call it a recession, but, COVID.
Yeah,
It brought the economy down. Nobody's buying anything. Nobody's leaving their house. But I found this article on Jalopnik. Sorry, Jalopnik is us, but we don't own it yet. Saying that even the booming market for batteries, like there's battery shortages everywhere. That's why you couldn't buy an iPace. That's why like Teslas are behind. That was really the thing they were waiting on. Even just energy storage, things like that, power walls. Really, we're having a hard time keeping up with the demand. And granted, the factories keep expanding. They keep adding new ones. But right now, the production is outstripping the demand for lithium-ion and lithium iron sulfate batteries. And that's wholly due to this economic change or socioeconomic change. And I thought that was interesting because, green energy is the cheapest way to do energy right now, and everybody needs it. So that has to be one of the most resistant industries to this kind of
But if it's
paradigm
one of those things
shift.
where even that's getting hit.
Right. So this should tell you, it's a ripple probably at this point, but that should show you just how significant this was or is, and how long we're going to be feeling the repercussions.
You also had China get hit, and China, it's like almost impossible to own a internal combustion car at this point.
Right, and they have a gigafactory there, so they're pushing out tons of batteries, and that's not even to count the lithium production they do for like cell phones, which is almost all of it. I guess Korea does a huge amount because LG Chem is in Korea. But yeah, that was fascinating to actually see that put down because the demand was so far outstripping production
that you couldn't keep up ever.
Yeah, the fact that it came down so much that we actually have an abundance or an overproduction of batteries right now is
actually that's gonna be kind of a good thing.
Crazy. It's gonna be great for pricing and all that stuff for homebrew projects and even cars.
I think that's gonna be good in the long run. I think honestly everything's happening in 2020 from everything that Donald Trump has done to COVID. All of that's going to make the world a better place because it's one of those things where a lot of your preconceived notions that you had about things, that the police were always okay, that
I thought
that EVs were only for the bourgeois, things like that. A lot of those things are undone. Yeah, exactly. But a lot of these things are going to come undone because of what's happened in 2020. I think this will be one of those years where everything in the world has changed so much.
It's going to be very different.
Yeah. I think, 1929, 1968.
You'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Yeah. I think 1929, 1968, stuff like that. It's just going to be one of those years where just nothing was the same after 1973. Things like that were just the whole world changed.
We're kind of due for it.
Yeah, we are. Because there's
even
a
to
lot
a certain
of things.
extent 2008, but yeah.
2008, I was like, it was like 2020 light.
Yeah, like, oh no, I can't pay my mortgage and I might lose my job. Versus, hey, nobody can pay their mortgage and everyone lost their job.
There's something to be said about incompetency
Yeah.
and changing
And
things.
there's a whole
I
lot
think
of
I
it.
think having incompetency in the world is important for being able to create change. Because
Probably right.
I think it's a very good way to put it.
It certainly
Anyway,
promotes it and increases the speed.
yes, it does. It makes things a lot more apparent. All right, well, hey, thank you for listening to Carbitrage, episode 169. Nice.
Nice.
And we will catch you for episode 170, which is going to be less nice because it's not 69. Nice.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.